In our tradition, it always means those who have taken sannyas or joined early, and mostly even in age also. See. happy. That's from Tattva. Just now we have heard from the first is simplicity of picture for the child. When Ramakrishna encourage other devotees that as a boy goes to God, he has some problem. He wrote a postcard and he admits that as a heaven. Simplicity of child. That's it. Second thing is what we see that Panchavati. Master M. Mahendranath Gupta wanted to have the second floor of Nahavar, where later mother, so above that. As Ramakrishna encouraged, he goes to Panchavati. Why? Because wherever the thinking of God happens, when we think about it, we can go to our shrine, we can self-be in the life. There is something taught because of our contribution that when we think about God, then we need some Sanma, that Sanma price goes for. And third, the singing of the glories of God. There is an essential. Rather, we should have a singing session with them like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started movement. It's simple singing, sing the glory of God. And now you see the whole world. They go with a drum, they say, God inside, God inside, God inside. And they also laugh and they pretty enjoy. Okay, then we can. Of course, this simplicity of a child, for when we are simple, uh, our mind gets emptied of all other emotions and feelings. For example, suppose we want to pour milk into a glass. There is already half, the glass is half full of water. Then if you pour milk, then the glass gets filled, but only 50% is milk. But suppose the glass is completely empty before milk, it gets filled with pure milk. So when our mind is emptied of all negative vasanas and samskaras and emotions, tendencies, and then when we pray to God, then this cup of our mind is completely filled with pure devotion. The children can do that. And that's the idea is in our tradition, Christian tradition. It can be childlike, child. Yeah, that's the way. One example in our own tradition, Swami Tattwamayananda. So in our spiritual heritage, there are two ways in which we can understand spirituality. One way, if we can have the mind of a Swami Tattwamayananda, because he was like a child. So whatever Sri Ramakrishna taught him, he understood and his mind was ready for it. He grasped the essence of it. He won't be able to teach somebody because he did not know Sanskrit or Vedanta, he had not read philosophy or Upanishads or anything. But even without reading any of these, he could grasp the spirit of Vedanta because his mind was ready. So that's what happens when our mind is completely, completely free of any of the negative influences. Otherwise, if some little water is the for milk, the milk will be there, but it's only 80, 20% is water in the glass. For milk, it's only 80%. So that's why the skepticism, doubt, all these can disappear when we are being negative. That's it. Many examples, not to this. That's why Mr. Arvind loved young people, so that is unspoiled. So we should be young. That it's not in our control. That's the control. We should keep like young in mind. So always open. And open. Open means not open 1.2. So doors are open, then fresh air peak. Otherwise, have some we are stick to that. This is the problem. So if you can keep more. Yeah. Of course, I will tell you something interesting. In San Francisco, some of our senior devotees, including Marian Queen, she is 87-year-old, and there are others. They went for surgery in Kaiser. So immediately after surgery, the same day they were sent back. So at least in modern 21st century America, doctors don't insist on remaining in the hospital till you are completely cured. This is an interesting part of it, of course.
Okay, then I have something. I heard from an American song. He said, if you enter into hospital, that is, you are admitted in the hospital, they'll put lots of, you know, the tubes from this way, from that way. Tubes will be removed only on two conditions.
Mm.
Either you are well or you are you are gone.
So I think anyway, this is a very
There, what thing I know this because I was very fast. So this is a commercial, it's not doctors. But insurance people, because they have to give more money, they will say that you have to keep a patient minimum period of time. Otherwise, they have to pay more. Whereas doctors want patients more pay. So this is a conflict. This is a commercial thing, not from doctors' point. The doctors are also sometimes say they are also giving to get more money. So there should be a control. It is the conflict of
if you raise some topics for discussion, then some of our listeners can do that. That would be better because we don't know what we are supposed to discuss. If you have anything to discuss, that'd be much better.
Suji. Yeah, you have many questions. Take care of.
Questioning Gauri. So, if you go to any of the Hindu temples, you find a number of deities, number of images. In our tradition, all these different images are symbols of some or some dimensions, one or other dimensions of the divine. The divine is one. The divine manifests in so many different ways, so many different types of manifestations. So in the Vedic mantras, it's clearly stated that all the names of gods and goddesses are actually different names used by people, different languages used by the great sages to mean the same reality. Now, even when you worship, when you do puja, the puja mantras, if you study, you understand. Uh, every image, every photo, every statue, whatever it is a symbol. But because you want to focus on something, your mind is normally driven in different directions by the senses. So the mind should be withdrawn from all the sensory objects, should be focused on some sublime higher right. See, look at the image of Saraswati. It's a symbol of spiritual wisdom, pure intellect, and so on. Including even spiritual Sharada, Holy Mother is a place associated with Holy. In fact, the word Sharada is written in two different ways in English. Sharad and Sarad. So in Sanskrit also there is Sarada is the and Sharada. So these are two dimensions of the same. For example, Sharatkale Pujida Idi Sharada. The Divine Mother worship during autumnal season is Sharada. And the Divine Mother who gives you spiritual wisdom is Sarada. Sarandada. The Saram is divine spiritual wisdom. Like that, all the different deities are so many symbols and metaphors of the same divine reality. So you worship, you put flowers, you do offerings. Finally, that divine presence should be experienced in your own heart. That's the ultimate purpose of all external rituals. All the temple rituals are meant to take you beyond temple rituals. A worship is meant to take you beyond worship. So the point is, ultimately, God sits or manifests in our own pure heart. That's a permanent residential address of the divine, really speaking. But we can't, it's not a concept, it has to be experienced, it's not an idea, it's not a philosophy. So in order to really experience that, you have to go through a process, a training process. You start from kindergarten, primary school, higher secondary school, maybe college, university, and so on. So all pujas, all rituals are so many ways of eventually manifesting the divine within our own. This is a central principle of Advaita Vedanta. In fact, Vedanta is very simple. It is what Swamiji said is nothing. We were just condensing the essence of Vedanta, manifestation of the divinity already. All of us. So all rituals are eventually, essentially, tools, methods, and means to finally realize and manifest the divine within us. That's ultimate.
So let me. So your question is, and when we come here, like God is in all beings. We are also divine, things potential divine, and all things are divine. But when we go for work, then we forget. That's the question. What is the difference? Why we forget? Say, suppose you started writing when you were a child. You used to forget many things. Then teacher would come and correct you. But now you don't forget. I'm talking about perfectly change himself or herself. Then he or she will not forget. So what is the difference between the difference is you have practiced so much that you don't forget. And you are not engaged in something else. Your whole mind is in writing, then you won't forget. If you're talking to someone and writing, then you forget. What Maharaj says, through ritual, what we do? Rituals are very important. We are thinking God is in front of me. I'm offering flower. And I am offering the food items. Even water. Even the topic does not bother about items. Rather, even water. This is through the Shastra, Abhyas, Vairagya, Sannyasa. One is Abhyas, again and again practice, and not interested in others. But as we go to the world, we're interested in everything except God. And secondly, we have not done enough homework. Abhyas. The two things, Abhyas, Vairagya. These are the because we have not done. So that's why, as Maharaj says, we need to come over and over again. Listen to it over and over again. Then it will be permanent. Then when we go out, it will not work. Then sometimes we'll follow. Again, it will be reminded by someone. That's why we have started. Serve God in that. So in few days it happened, say, what program? What is that program name? Transition. So transition. I said, no, put it, serve God in that. So one has to come up with ideas. Then one will be perfect. So Abhyas means practice over and over again, like ritual. And where I'm not interested in the other.
Rituals are important because without going to primary school and kindergarten, you cannot go to Harvard. Directly, you cannot go. So all these karma yoga, meditation, all these are different methods to.
And when you do some ritual, that means other things will sit aside. They won't come. But in the world, what happens? And then you forget what we teach. There is something or any other question? Go. Yes, please go ahead.
Excuse me, could you repeat that question? Yeah, yeah. How? Yeah, okay. No, actually, there is only very minute difference between the person who has attained this experience and a person who has not attained this experience in real life. Those who have attained this higher spiritual enlightenment, the world doesn't shock them. If there's a problem, it doesn't have a devastating effect on it because they know this world as world is impermanent, changing, non-eternal. Everyone knows, any even primary school student knows that every moment our cells are changing, entire creation, the whole universe also is changing. Probably after some billions of years, this universe won't be what it is. So millions of years ago, this universe was not what it is now. So change is an integral part of this phenomenal world, empirical world. But the point is that idea that everything is impermanent, that doesn't translate into our common sense wisdom in a real life. Suddenly we get news that we have lost a lot of money in the stocks, or some close relative has died. We know that everyone in this world has to go through this process. Even somebody who is running a crematorium, who's seeing these bodies being pushed through the tube every day, when he comes home and we find that some of his distant relatives died, he'll be shocked. But he knows that is a physical fact that every day these bodies are being turned into ashes. It's happening in his own crematorium. So the physical reality doesn't often become a part of our emotional common sense and wisdom. So for a spiritually enlightened person, this reality of the impermanence of this world has become a common sense wisdom. So he's not shocked. Others, we may read philosophy, we may be fully convinced Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya, all we may know. But again, the minutest, smallest thing in this world can drive us crazy, can shock us. But an enlightened person, he knows that, but he's not shocked. That's the only difference. Jivan Mukta is called, liberated in life. That's the only difference. Spirituality becomes a common sense wisdom for the enlightened one. For others, it is only a concept, an idea. Now, there's a great difference between an idea or a concept and this common sense wisdom. You use it with you every day, you use it when you have to encounter a problem. So problem doesn't shock an enlightened person. It, it can shock others. That's the only difference. Yeah, yeah, please.
I'll give you example. Clarify. What he said,
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
corroborating. Sri Ramakrishna and Akshay. So Akshay was dying, and Sri Ramakrishna thought that like the soul is being taken out from the covering of like that. The soul is being taken out. And oh, he laughed. Oh, now I know. Oh, it's like this. This world is temporary. So he saw that soul is being taken out. And so he was laughing. He was not, he was joyful. But then, after a while, he felt the absence of us. And he started humbling. So he showed it how the realized soul, realized at the same time when he has sense of this world and sense of absence of someone, and because of that agony, then he explained also, like it is like towel is being turned. That's what he feels. This is one example. Another example, Ramakrishna went to see Keshav. That's what he read just before that. He went to see Keshav and he was very eager. Because a Brahman, when he thinks about someone or something, so restless. So Sri Ramakrishna was restless to see Keshav. And Amrita helper came and said, he was sleeping, I think. Keshav was sleeping. Now he'll come, now he'll come. And Sri Ramakrishna, go away. You are only stopping me. Let me go there inside. Then Amrita started saying that, he's also feeling and feeling about God, and he also believes and sees the glories of God. And as soon as this was told to Krishna, and he was in Samadhi for a long time. To see Keshav, total. For long he stayed with that. And later, when he came out of that, and Keshav also came, he did not talk about a single thing about his feelings. All about God and God. He did after, like when you go back.
When Sri Rama go to Kamalpudi. Kamalpudi. Yeah.
That's very interesting. How, when he is realizing in his own self the whole, whatever, then he's not worried. And when he is in duality, then he's worried. We can see in the case of Akshay, in the case of Keshav. But him person, when he's totally not worried about it. He's not in his body. The examples are very nice.
The spiritual enlightenment doesn't make anyone insensitive or inactive or unresponsive to problems of the world, problems of the world. With Shankaracharya, who said Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya, and he was going all over Indian subcontinent 4 times. He was writing the most profound devotional poetry in Sanskrit written by Shankaracharya. You know who is the author of the most wonderful devotion poetical works in Sanskrit? Shankaracharya. 68 of this book, including everything is Mother Bhavani, Gadistam, Tumega Bhavani, all his own work. And he is the one who installed temples all over India, who also organized the puja method that we are practicing. So, Panchadevata Puja and Shadmata Sthavana, all that. And he was, of course, obviously the greatest philosopher saint of India. In doing all this, he was also writing devotional hymns meant for devotees to worship. So, in a university professor who has a PhD doesn't discard his alphabet, which he must have studied at the kindergarten. He writes his thesis only the same, using the same alphabet that he studied as a baby in the kindergarten. He doesn't know I won't use alphabet anymore. He can't, he has to use the same alphabet to write the thesis, doctorate thesis. So you find a spiritually enlightened person, actually he becomes more sensitive in a very humane sense. He becomes more sensitive to problems. Frequently there's a feeling, oh, he's a jnani, he be dry, insensitive, inactive, always engage in some dialectical thing. Not at all. People should always, I can give an example, man. It's a very interesting example. You know, in Sri Ramakrishna's life, you find Totapuri was the one who taught Sri Ramakrishna Advaita. And Sri Ramakrishna got the experience in 3 days. Totapuri himself practiced 40. Then, when Sri Ramakrishna was doing this Hari Bol and all that, Totapuri was telling, you are making chapatis. No, Totapuri was a follower of Shankaracharya. And Shankaracharya was the greatest chapati maker in Indian history, because you can find all the in fact the one great philosopher who wrote the most wonderful devotional poetry, whether Kali, Durga, Subramanya, Kumara, Vishnu, Krishna, all. There is not even one great deity that Shankaracharya did not praise through his devotional poems. 68. None of the bhakti teachers could write anything comparable to the great poetry of Saudgari, Lekri, Anandagiri. Just imagine, full of devotion, the search of the devotion you find, the search of devotion. So what I mean to say, that Totapuri was Shankaracharya's disciple. I mean, his follower. But he could not clearly understand the real Advaita of Shankaracharya. Well, that's why, according to Sharadanandaji, he came to Dakshineshwar to update his understanding of Advaita from Sri Ramakrishna. Finally, he surrendered everything to Mother. But Shankaracharya already written Gadistum Tumega Bhavani in 8th century. Mother, you are the ultimate refuge of everyone, is the statement. So you can see, so the point is, the highest devotee and the highest man of enlightenment, highest person of enlightenment are the same. In fact, you reach the highest peak of devotion only when you become an Advaita. There is a statement in the Gita Bhashya, Maichaninya Yogena Bhakti Ravibijarini, Vivikta Desha Saipitum, and Abhigdana Samsara. Shankaracharya says in his commentary, Sacha Nirmala Vivijarini Bhakti Sacha Jnana. This pure devotion, unwavering devotion, is actually a state of Advaitic experience, non-dualistic experience. The highest devotion and the highest non-dualistic experience are the same. So a spiritually enlightened person cannot become blind to this world, or insensitive or unresponsive, dry, and there's totally not bothered about anything. That's not a nature of spiritual. It's a very important thing. Yeah, everything.
Actually, Ramakrishna clarified.
Yeah.
You were there. What's Ramakrishna? The devotee asked, is this world not true or something like that? Then Ramakrishna said, why so? If you realize God, then you can see God everywhere. But if you have not realized, then you will not see. Here, you can see light and various shapes of light. But if you tune yourself with light, then you can see light everywhere.
Yeah, sure.
But if someone tunes oneself with darkness, that so this is how it is with that. It is not that the realized soul thinks, oh, it's not. যার এখানে আছে তার সেখানে. Who has here, yes, here. So that's why he says that the adjust. First we have to cultivate. Not be a thing. If you go touching in the whole world, you do not find like you are even for worship, what is you have one, two, three things. Ram Krishna, Sri Ram Krishna. Sri Ram Krishna is sitting there. It's exercise. And this way we have to be aware of that. And then in between we have meditation on Hridaya Kamala Madhya Raji Samiti first outside. That way also like children first go to school and then after attending some knowledge, then no need of going to school again. Then he can read at home. In the beginning, it's very essential. Yes, adjusting. I'm only just, I'm adding some salt. I'll keep that. Yes.
Yeah, you know, uh, anyone who has attained this highest spiritual enlightenment is like a goldsmith. A goldsmith, he judges all the different ornaments made of gold based on the quality of the gold out of which they are made. The pot maker, he's looking at pots and pans and different things, different utensils made of clay, but he's looking only at the clay. A normal person will think this pot is bigger, so it's different. And that small uh, jar is still bigger. Like that, he may see differences. So a pot maker will see the plurality, but he will understand this plurality is nothing but a manifestation of the unity and oneness. Yeah. Actually, not Veda. It is seeing one in everything and seeing everything in one. In fact, I can quote one verse in the Bhagavata Purana. It is actually not a description of non-dualistic experience. The description of who is the highest devotee of God. So there's an interesting dialogue in the 11th skandha, 11th book, Bhagavata Purana, second chapter. There is a interesting episode. It is called the Nimi Navayogi Samvada, a dialogue between 9 sages and a philosopher king. Okay. Now this king puts one question to each one of these 9 sages who visit his court in his palace. So one question that this king puts to these sages is, who is the most wonderful devotee of God? The answer given is Sarva Bhudeshu Yapashit Bhagavad Bhavamatmanaka Bhudani Bhagavadi Atmani Esha Bhagavatam. But it means don't worry about this Sanskrit. But point is, the one who sees everyone and everything in God, and the one who sees and experiences the presence of the divine of God in everything. So one who sees everyone and everything in God, and one who sees God in everything. So the very distinction between multiplicity and unity disappears for a spiritually enlightened person. He doesn't have to, it's a matter of experience. It is not a matter of conceptual or philosophical discussion. Very often, when we approach these higher spiritual experiences from a conceptual point of view, thinking that it is a concept, but actually it is not a concept, it's an experience. So once we understand that spirituality is really a matter of experience and not an idea or a concept or a doctrine, then we realize that you can easily understand it. There is one point beyond which intellectually you cannot get a clear picture of the absolute reality. In spiritual life, doubts do not get answered. Doubts get self-destroyed. You may ask questions. You don't get the answer to the questions. The questions cease to be questions. The question that you asked as a child in the kindergarten, you don't ask this question now. Because those questions were real at that time, but now those questions become irrelevant. There are no more questions. It's like that in spiritual life, as we evolve further and further, what happens is our questions and doubts just disappear. We cannot really find an answer to any of these spiritual questions. This is a reality. But then teachers will answer. The ultimate purpose of these answers is to make you understand there is no real answer. Because as we practice meditation, japa, puja, reading scriptures with a sense of sanctity and sacredness, our mind also begins to evolve. We begin to move forward. Our emotions and feelings and tendencies get purified as we evolve in spiritual life. And as we evolve in spiritual life, these doubts just disappear. That is an important thing in spiritual life. In spiritual life, there is no answer to the questions because questions just self-destroy. In fact, that's why Swami Vivekananda, he was an agnostic studying in Scottish Church College, who was steeped in Western philosophy, Hume, this empiricism, British empiricism, Kant and Hegel and John Locke and others, Swamiji was making fun of Sri Ramakrishna when Sri Ramakrishna was trying to teach him Advaita, which he was not willing to learn. But Sri Ramakrishna gave him a touch. That's the only medicine that Swamiji needed. But the Yam was there. Yam wanted to learn Advaita. Sri Ramakrishna, no, you are meant for bhakti. You can imagine. So the point is, so that means Sri Ramakrishna knew that philosophically it's difficult to convince Narendra about anything because there is no real answer at the philosophical level. The philosophy is a Dvaita level, dualistic level. How do you understand the highest spiritual truth, Advaitic, non-dualistic truth at the dualistic level? So whenever we feel this doubt, we should know doubts are genuine. It is natural for every genuine seeker to feel this doubt. We can ask questions, we can discuss, but at the same time, we should remember that actually these doubts do not have an answer at the philosophical or dialectical level. As we evolve further, if you read Holy Mother's teaching a few more times, you won't be asking this question after a week. If you read the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, maybe 110 day, if you just read the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, after 1 week, you won't answer. You won't seek this. You may be asking different questions. So questions just self-destroyed. They disappear. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's it all question is just they will seek for the solutions that doubt is the problem. Now how this Sri Ramakrishna gave the example. We can understand examples very nice. He went to see an exhibition. In that exhibition, Sri Krishna Leela is being depicted by sugar candy. So sugar candy, Krishna is saying, and there he's tending cows, there something else. The children will come and see him. He's tending cows. And he's playing flute, or he's near him. Children will feel different. But Sri Ramakrishna said it's all. So this is the difficult what is right. Like, what is sugar like? What is molasses like? You have to take any number of discussion cannot be enough to convince. But if you taste it, oh, now I know. So tasting it, and as soon as you experience all the doubts, and वो तब क्या होगा? गुमाम पश्यति सर्वत्र And everything, Sarvam to me, and everything is in me. What shloka is in from Bhagavad and in Bhagavad Gita also. So it's really, when see, now we are talking about Ram Krishna, gospel of and higher power. Yes, what is it? We are tasting it. So we forget all other. But as soon as we go and now, what to serve, dal, bhat, sabji. So we'll talk about it. And Holy Mother says, "Thor bodi khara, khara bodi thor." What is the meaning? Tomato, potato, coriander, coriander, potato. Yes. Teach you to do those are stuff. But by abhyas and by that, like when we have perfected, otherwise, if we bring some doubts also, and Ram should come and remove the doubts. And so they came, and it's so simple. Example, Pachambara, Pacharambara now, Vitan here. So in all ornaments is together, in all parts, this is a kind of science that, and for that we have great resources. Only we need to read it. Then it's clear. Any other? Yes.
Yeah, 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 yeah. We generally focus on the spiritual aspect of world religions. Generally, all world religions are taught, except the mainstream Islam, but we teach Sufism. So Judaism, Christianity, Hinduism, Buddhism, Zoroastrian traditions, Taoism, Shintoism, Native American traditions, so, so Sufism. So these are and normally they develop a feeling of affinity, sense of harmony of all different religious based systems. In fact, Swami Tattwamayananda ji, he gave an inscription. You may have seen the Sanskrit inscription at the Filbert Street entrance of the older temple. That is in 1905. That is Ekam Sat Vipra Bahudha Vadanti. Truth is one, sages call it by different names. So that's the essence of what we teach. At least that creates a sense of harmony and when they develop a very more holistic attitude towards religion in general. So, I know California is a very, very enlightened state in that respect. They're very broad minded, very enlightened state. I mean, there may be exceptions, but generally speaking, I think the entire Western seaboard, the Western coastal region is quite, and also East Coast. That's what I mean. So it's they develop a very good, a very holistic attitude to different world religions. The spiritual aspect of world religion, there may be other things we are not bothered. The spiritual aspect, the humanistic and the spiritual aspect, we focus on. That's thank
Very good. Now, chawal dal, sabji, sabji chawal dal. Okay. Okay, let's say it. Om Apakaya Dharmasya Sarvadharmasya Avatar Varishaya Om Namah Shri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suro Sachit Sukha Swarupaya Swami Tattwamayananda. Yeah. Now that those are also good.